What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here at GSD Studios. First off, thank you so much for checking out today's content. I'll make this extremely fast, but I need to plug our sponsors that make this show possible. Our first sponsor is perfectstormnow.com, by far the most effective and affordable real estate agent website and database platform in the industry. It is the system I use to sell 50 plus homes every single month. Check it out at www.perfectstormnow.com. Our second sponsor is my personal 90-day mastery bootcamp, which is, again, my personal real estate agent mentorship program where we spend 90 days together, 12 live sessions. You get daily access to me inside the program. You guys, we go so extremely in-depth. There's nothing that's incomplete about this program. You're going to get all the tools that you need to go out there and crush it inside your real estate business. Make sure to go check us out, www.90daymastery.com. You can watch in-depth videos of exactly what's covered to see if the program is for you. See all the raving testimonials we have from all of the amazing agents and clients that went through the program. So make sure to check us out, www.90daymastery.com. All right, you guys, let's jump on into today's content. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD mode interview. Every single week, we interview top entrepreneurs and just straight up top badasses. They're out there dominating their spaces. They're people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, for their families, as well as have a big impact on others. And that's why they agree to come on the show and give a big chunk of their valuable time to be here and drop some knowledge on you. So today, you guys, very excited for our guest. So our guest today was a guy that was, going down that corporate path, if you will, just like so many, and, wanted something more, wanted something different. He got started in real estate investing by just investing in some property for he and his family, and it just continued to grow. Then eventually decided to leave his career, jump headfirst into real estate. And since, you guys, so he bought his first investment property in 2000, left his job in 2004 to get into real estate full time, and has since then closed on over 600 successful properties, units, if you will, and has much more currently in development. So really stoked and honored to have Kevin Lacasse on the show. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Josh. Very happy to be here.
Yeah.
So, I'll just kind of start in on kind of where I was. So I got out of high school and didn't really have a whole big vision on what I wanted to do, didn't really know. So I actually went to school to be a welder, and got a 2-year degree in welding. Was doing that for a while, saw a lot of people get hurt, and it wasn't quite for me. So kind of went to more of an aerospace industry where I was in welding over there. Didn't really like that, wanted to move up the career path, so got a degree in welding engineering, went back to the same company. And it was kind of day in, day out, same kind of mundane thing, nothing really excited, nothing really horrible about it. And then one day, I sitting in a welding booth, and I'm training a guy by the name of Travis how to weld. And, I was probably 21, 22 years old at the time, thinking I'm doing pretty good as an engineer. And Travis tells me he's going to be retired at like 32 from real estate. And I'm like, no way, get out of here, man. How you doing that? And he told me a little bit about, cash flow from multifamily properties. And really, that was my aha moment. I had a purpose in life from that point forward. I knew I was going to be a successful real estate investor. From that point, I didn't know anything about it, didn't know how I was going to get there. I just knew it was going to happen. So from there, I started studying foreclosures and just kind of absorbing as much knowledge as I could. I mean, it was a manufacturing facility that I was at, so the bell would ring, you'd have break. The bell would ring, you'd have lunch. Just other people are going out and messing around and doing different things. And I just kind of took my break set in front of my desk and just started reading and developing as much as I possibly could. So in 2000, I bought our first duplex. Now, this place was a mess. It was condemned. I bought it for $32,000. It was in September, so over here it was just starting to get cold and so forth. didn't do anything about home inspections or anything. So I bought this monster and said, well, I couldn't afford rent and a mortgage, even though it was a $32,000 mortgage. So I moved right in. My wife was pregnant, plus we had another daughter. Moved in, turned the water on. Lo and behold, all the pipes are bursted. Water's flying everywhere. Electricity's not working. Sewage is backed up. It was a mess. Everyone told my wife, you're crazy for going along with him. And she's like, hey, we started with nothing. If we wind up with nothing, so be it. So I had her support. So we got in there, rehabbed the whole place. I did all the work myself, just kind of figured it out, did my plumbing, electrical, everything. Got the thing, rehabbed and started living in one side, collecting rent from the other side. So things were good. So from there, kind of expanded and bought another multifamily property. It was a 5-unit and knew I had room to add a couple more units to it. So I did that. So now I'm working kind of my real estate career, which I was passionate about, at the same time going to my mundane daily job, which I hated the grind. Sunday was always the worst because I knew I had to go back to my regular job on Monday. So a couple of years before I quit, I set a goal. I said, I want to be out of there in 2 years. Goals are so important. So I had a yellow sticky pad and I just put it on the inside bottom of my desk and I put 104 lines on it. So every Monday morning, that was the only thing that got me going into work, is every Monday I'd go in and I'd cross off one more line. I didn't write anything on it, so if someone saw it, they didn't know what it was. But for me, it was just my goal of being out of there in 2 years. So I went through and, continued to, do single family flips and so forth. And finally, I get to a point where it was in 2004. I got a couple of flips that I had closed on. I got like 90 grand, which was like double the salary that I was making. At the same time, at my day job, as an engineer, they had laid off a bunch of people. I was taking on a bunch of responsibilities, and there was a wage freeze for a couple of years. Well, that wage freeze came off, and I thought I was going to get a nice raise and everything. And I got like a 3% raise. So I turned around and looked at my boss and said, you know what? It's not your job to make me rich. That's my job. And I quit. And when I quit, it was like 2 or 3 weeks off from the amount of checks on my thing. I think I went like 2 or 3 weeks over from the goal I had set two years before. So that was exciting. Now I'm off and running, basically unemployed. Had only flipped a couple houses and, didn't have a whole lot of cash flow going. But I said, you know what? We're going to make this thing happen. Failure was not an option. I just kept going for it. So I plugged into the RIA group around here and got pretty involved with that. Made a lot of contacts, met a lot of people, and, met some hard money lenders and so forth. So from that point, I kind of had basically two modes of how I was going to grow this thing. So I needed cash to live on, but I also wanted to have build up my monthly cash flow by my residual income from my multifamily properties. So what I would do is I'd fix a house up, flip it, and get a good chunk of cash from it. And that's what I would live on. But then the cash flow coming in from my multifamily properties was helping to pay the debt service on my on the debt that I had to borrow to do the flips. So it was kind of a good kind of strategic combination to kind of make everything kind of work out. So as we started kind of growing, I had too much to do, so I couldn't do the renovations and so forth myself. So, I started hiring contractors, and I had read the book E-Myth from Michael Gerber, which really gets into building systems and so forth. Probably familiar with the book. And, really kind of took that to heart and said, you know what, I'm going to make this thing a business and not just kind of a hobby. So got more into that. So get to the point of about probably 40 units under our belt. Getting to the point where it's getting frustrating. I was the one handling maintenance calls. My wife was cleaning apartments and so forth. And we said, you know what, we've got to really grow this thing and have economies of scale working on our behalf and hire some employees or find something else to do because we can't go this way. It was also about the same time I was in the basement of one of the apartment units, and I was doing plumbing. I think it was near my birthday. There was a sewer line backed up, and lo and behold, the thing breaks. I get covered in sewage. So I'm standing in a basement. Most people are like, oh my God, I'd be out of here. This would be the end of my career. I'm done. And I kind of sat back and grinned, and I said, you know, this is where most people turn around and they're done with their career. This would be the end for most people. They'd say, I'm out. So I kind of grinned and I said, if I can get over this hump, get over this hurdle, I know I can make it. I know I can make it in this business. So that's what I did. I kind of laughed it off, shrugged my shoulders, and kind of went on. So like I said, I was getting to the point where the business was growing, and management wasn't something I really liked. So I was doing some single family development and got an apartment building in Vermont, and met this guy by the name of Jim Pompelli. He was a property manager, third-party property manager, and kind of turned my portfolio over to him. Then I could focus on, you know, basically the new business development, you know, buying distressed multifamilies, fixing them up, getting them, you know, full of tenants, and then refinancing them. And I was letting him kind of run with it. So 8 months into that now, I've got probably 50 apartment units under management with this guy. And it was end of October, and I hadn't received my checks yet for my proceeds for the rents for October. So I call him up, and he's like, oh, yeah, sorry, you know, counting backed up, whatever. Sends me my checks. I don't get them until November. Half the money, half the checks bounced because it was like 5 or 6 different accounts. So I let him know. He's like, oh, sorry, you know, whatever, made up some excuse. So now I get the checks back by the end of November. So now these are October checks. I'm getting the end of November, almost December. Well, those bounce again. So, but I don't find that out until like just before Christmas time frame. So then I'm busy with my family and everything, go through Christmas. You know, this whole thing's still kind of in the back of my mind that something's not quite right. Right after Christmas, we had one of our apartment buildings burned down. So I kind of didn't give him too much grief about the checks because, I mean, he was, you know, giving me a big line of baloney. And so a building burns down. He's involved with that, took care of that. So now comes January, and I'm still now due my rents from October. Finally, I go up there, you know, let him know I'm taking everything back. I want my money now and everything else. Come to find out, he was under investigation by the feds for fraud. And make a long story short, he embezzled all my rents for 50 units for 2.5 months, plus spent all my tenant security deposits, plus all the bills that he said that he was paying to my utility providers, taxes, mortgages, all that stuff never got paid. So it was like $100,000. And again, I'm like right at the beginning of my career. So I took all my properties back. They were like 50% occupied. Half the tenants weren't paying rent. That guy is in federal prison now, by the way. But anyway, it was an eye-opener. So it was another setback, another point where I said, you know, I've got to get beyond this. So I said, I'm not going to turn my properties over to a third-party manager again. I'm going to manage the stuff myself. So that's when we really formed New England Family Housing from a management perspective and started growing it. Now, I didn't have any schooling or background in business management or anything. So it was really just a matter of you know, trying to work our way through it, reading as many books as I could, and just trying to kind of figure it out as we went. You know, like I said, I vowed that I'd never do that again. So then, you know, things started going good, get things back under track where, you know, got the properties filled back up. All the people that didn't get paid, I got them all paid. And starting to cash flow again. So I wanted to start taking on bigger projects. Now, some of the books that I've read are, you know, inspirational type books. Some are more technically, you know, strategizing type books. Well, one of the ones that really stuck out to me was The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. Think big. So I've always kind of had that in my mindset. Think big. It was just a small little thing in New Hampshire, but I thought New England sounded bigger than just simply New Hampshire or Kevin's family properties or something. So, you know, I wanted to get into bigger projects. So I took on a project in Claremont, at the time, it was the biggest to date that I had done. It was like 20,000 square feet. The top 2 units were vacant. There was parking issues, so I couldn't get approvals. So I buy that anyway, right as the market's downturning. Halfway through the rehab on that property, the market crashes. So my line of credit that I'm using to finance this thing gets frozen. The property assessment had gone way down. On top of that, code enforcement was giving me a hard time. Stuff I should have known, but didn't at the time. So I had to put an elevator in the building, which wasn't expected. So all these cost overruns. So long story short, I get the project done and go to refinance it, and it comes in appraised way less than what I thought it was going to be. So now I am January, and I'm faced with about $150,000 in credit card debts and money owed to contractors, and not knowing how the heck I'm getting out of this boat. But I just knew in my mind that, okay, by the end of the year, all these people are going to be paid. And, sure enough, they were. I just flipped properties and kind of kept going that mode, and just knew that eventually this whole thing was going to work out. So got over that diversity. So then we started to expand into different things. I didn't want to just do multifamily properties. So got in and brought in a partner on that, which happens to be my dad. And he's kind of running the day-to-day things over there. Still on that campground. That was in 2007. Started a collection agency. That didn't work out. Started a hedge fund to try to purchase more properties. And I think we were a little ahead of our time on that one, so that kind of didn't work out. And then, so this whole time too, after that all kind of happened, the market was crashing. It was getting a lot tougher to sell our purchase and flip type properties. So, definitely want to expand my buy and hold portfolio. So there was this thing that came out. It was called a neighborhood stabilization grant. Now, I had never done anything with public funding or anything like that before, but I had heard about these funds that were available to only certain communities. So I made application on, to get some funding for, I don't know, it was a couple $1 million. We thought we were going to be aggressive and do a bunch of stuff. And the municipality at the time, was the city of Berlin, New Hampshire, was also applying for funds. Now, Berlin is a pretty rough market. It was an old mill town, and the mill kind of shut, and everybody went about. But it was a town I grew up in. It was my hometown, so I kind of, I had a connection to it and so forth. Well, the town of Berlin was applying to tear down some properties. So we made a public-private partnership, and through that process, we renovated about 75 apartment units in different buildings. So kind of got my foot in the door with federal programs and funding. And a lot of the markets that I work in are tertiary markets. They're not where all the competition is, where all the growth is. It's more, depressed more towns. There's need for, housing in those areas. The housing structure is kind of deteriorating, but it makes it hard to do a new construction project in those markets because the cost benefit just isn't there. The cost to build it new exceeds the value of what it's worth. So that's where these programs kind of came in. So, went through a couple of those, grants and so forth, and again, continuing to grow the portfolio at that time, probably up to 200-300 apartment units. And then came along a mobile home park. I'd never been involved in mobile home parks and thought it was a new area to get involved in. So bought a mobile home park, learned that whole business, got involved with that, then got approached by somebody else to manage another mobile home park that was 150 mobile home sites plus an apartment building. And told him, yeah, I can handle that, no problem. Then went home and had no idea how I was going to figure out how to do it, but did. And, that was kind of the tipping point on when this whole thing kind of turned around. So up to that point, I'd gotten to where my cash flow basically covered my living expenses. But I get into that deal, and it netted about $25,000 per month over. So, then I was like, all right, I've kind of made it. So that was in 2013. So I just kind of keep building on top of that. So with the affordable housing stuff now, I've gotten into what's called low-income housing tax credits. It's a federal program administered through the state's housing authorities. And those are the projects that you see that happen to be bigger. So again, my mindset of trying to do more kind of led me down that path. So now we've got a couple different projects going where we're doing a 32-unit apartment complex that's ground up new construction. We've got a 35-unit rehab building that we're working on. We've got a cluster development that's in the planning stages. We've got another 300-unit campsite that's in the stages of being approved and developed. So got a bunch of different things going on. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I know it took a little while, but kind of brought you up to date.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it, man. And what I love about you sharing your story is, a lot of real estate investors, get in and talk about a lot of their successes, which you've had a lot of those successes, but they don't always go deep into some of those failure moments, those obscurity moments, or not obscurity moments, but adversity moments that you shared. And I mean, just for those that are watching, listen, if you pay attention to the time frame, it was 9 years before you got to the point where you kind of really started to make it, right? But I'm also interested in those beginning years. I know you talk now about the funding that you're getting through the state and the different funding that you're getting, but in those beginning stages, man, I mean, how were you coming up with the funds, to be able to fund these first deals? Because at this point, you left your engineering job. You didn't have a lot of cash flow coming in from those units. And what were you doing to acquire those first, to start building up these portfolios in the beginning?
Yeah, that was a critical component. Through those REIA groups and through some of the other people that I talked to, I really made some good relationships with some hard money lenders. And really, that's how I funded everything. And, I told my wife and kind of let it known to my lenders, I'm very much a man of my word. So if I tell somebody relationships, it really opened up the door to have basically an unlimited amount of funds to be able to do what I needed to do. So really, that's kind of was instrumental in getting the whole thing going.
So even on the buy and hold apartments, because we hear a lot about hard money and people use those for flips, but even on the buy and hold or the buy and holds, the apartment buildings, you're taking those with hard money, putting tenants in place, and then refinancing those. Was that kind of that initial strategy?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I never had the cash when I started to be able to go buy an already stabilized apartment building. So that's exactly what we did. I sought out for distressed. They were either physically distressed and needed to be rehabbed, or they were something wrong with the management or lead or whatever the issue was. We'd get in, buy them at such a discounted rate that when we then, went and did the rehab or whatever we needed to do, by the time we went to go get conventional financing and do the takeout, we were at 60, 70% LTVs. So we could get 100% of the financing paid off, to pay off the hard money lenders 100%. And in a lot of cases, actually take out a little additional money to live on.
Yeah. When it sounds like you were also very disciplined in your own personal finances, where that cash flow that was coming in, you use that to pay the interest to the hard money lenders. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, there was, it was always a struggle, but it seems like if you really kind of set your mind to it and plan ahead with enough forethought that, you build enough financing to carry it until you get the next flip sold or you get enough income coming in from the cash flow. Yep.
Love it. So then, how are you? I know you talked about a lot of the stuff that you're buying are distressed properties. I mean, what are you doing intentionally to go out there and find these properties and acquire these properties? Because it can be such a competitive market. I mean, you've got a lot of other investors out there. So what have you done successfully to be able to acquire these?
That's a good question. I mean, the properties came from all different sources. I made connections with, through the RIA groups. I've met a lot of people that, simply don't buy and hold or do the renovations themselves. So they would just get it under contract and flip the contract to me. So that's how I get a lot of them. I'm also a real estate broker, so I'd get a lot of my stuff on the MLS. And then a lot of it was just word of mouth. I mean, New Hampshire, good and bad, is kind of a small state. So, once you kind of build a reputation, people know that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. It just seems like a lot of deals kind of came to me through just, various contacts and having done what I said I was going to do in the areas that I've been working.
Yep. Yep. Love it, man. And then, when it comes to the city funds or the state funds or the municipality funds, just for, a lot of people, I don't think of thought of that strategy. As a realtor, and I know you're a realtor as well, we hear about our clients getting down payment assistance and things of that. But as an investor, how do you apply for those? And how have you found, are there any certain things that they're looking for that you found success by getting those awarded those contracts?
Yeah, now that's a good question. It took a lot of years to kind of break into that whole aspect of it. Really the biggest thing is getting a reputation and, a little bit of experience under your belt before you get to the point of being able to ask for those funds. Then the next thing is making relationships and contacts and really building the team of people that are involved in that industry, whether it's lawyers, municipal workers, the local housing authorities, the state housing authorities, and just mingling with those people. They usually have a lot of different events and seminars throughout the year, and it's just really getting to those things, making the contacts, learning what the programs are, what the systems are, and then just going after it.
Yeah. Well, and it just seems like in so many different businesses, it becomes a relationship game, that human connection element, right? And it just seems like you've done such a brilliant job with that between, the funding from the hard money lenders to the state and from your real estate investment groups, how much your success would you say has been because you're so diligent on creating those strong, great connections?
I would say that's probably 90% of it. Like I said, I wasn't fortunate enough to be born into a family with a bunch of money that could make this thing happen. So I think a lot of it is your own personal mindset and really depending on the team. Putting the team in place is definitely key. I would probably contribute 90% of my success to the team.
Yeah. Yep. Love it, man. And I know recently, you've been positioning and transitioning into becoming, a private money lender, if you will, yourself. Talk to us about that and what led you to that decision, or that next venture for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was so instrumental in me getting started that way. And so one, it's giving back to other investors that want to get started. And the other thing is, when I was getting started, I can see a huge percentage of my profit getting paid to these hard money lenders year after year. So I always knew I wanted a piece of that puzzle too. So, that was one of the benefits too. As I'm starting to build equity in these properties, I'm paying off debt service, I'm doing all these things. Well, now I've got equity. So it's like, how do I get a return off of that equity? Because it's not like equity sitting in a stock market getting an interest rate. So what I've done is gotten lines of credit that are secured by those loans. So I can take out money, that are secured by my other properties at, 4% interest, let's say, and then turn around and make a spread on it when I lend it back out the other side. So there's a little bit of risk there from my perspective that if the person doesn't pay or whatever, I've still got my note that I've taken out. But, the spread's well worth it. And the properties that I invest in, I feel pretty confident that I can do something with if needed, where if I had to take it back, I've got enough experience so I could finish the project up myself.
Yep. So you're using those, those secured lines of credit to go out there and acquire more of your own property, so you're not having to pay that big interest, as well as loan that out to other investors. And we've got, 85, 90% of our listeners are either realtors or investors that are tied to that space. Is this something that you're doing just on a local level, or, if we have somebody that is looking for some private money that's maybe in California or Arizona where I'm at, right? Is that something that you're opening up, or are you keeping it very, very, very local?
I'm always expanding. So yeah, have them give me a call, no doubt. If I can't place it, I do know a lot of people that can. So yeah, I'm definitely looking to expand that out.
Yep.
Another point about new ventures, I don't know if I should bring it up now or not, but I'm pretty excited about this too. You probably heard of MLM, multi-level marketing, and it's something that's always turned me off. Never wanted anything to do with it, and I've heard people have wild success with it, but I just was never interested in it. I got approached, not that long ago about this other business model called Ambit, which is basically through the deregulation of electricity, you can kind of sell electricity, and it's set up through a multi-level marketing format. But what got me excited about it is I don't look at it as starting another business. It's electricity, so it integrates so well with the real estate business because I've got tenants with 600 meters out there, which are all potential customers, and, a staff of people out there, which are all potential consultants. So it just molds so well into the business. And it's not like you got to sell anybody on using electricity because everybody uses electricity anyway. So I've got a link to that too. I'd love to share that with people and be more than happy to talk with somebody about how they can integrate that into their real estate business as well. Because I just think it molds so well into what we're already doing.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And we'll make sure to have links below. So if people are interested in talking more with you about getting some financing or talking more about Ambit, but so all that will be below. So wherever you guys are watching or listening, those links will be below. But kind of walk us through how Ambit works, man, because that's very interesting, right? So how do you, you've got all your units that you're, obviously, like you said, have all these meters and people can't go without electricity. So how do you get involved with Ambit, and how does that then correlate to the client?
Sure. So with Ambit, you sign up as a consultant under somebody above. Somebody gets you into the business. So if somebody called me, I could sign them up basically as a consultant. And when you're a consultant, you only have to do basically two things: sign people up as customers and teach other people to do the same thing. And the people that you do the same, that you teach do the same thing, they're consultants. So there's three ways to get paid off of it. Basically, you get paid off of the bonuses for signing up other consultants under you. Secondly, you get paid for residual income that is from all the customers of your personal customers, as well as all your customers' customers and the consultants below you's customers. And then the third way is through bonuses as you promote up through the ranks of Ambit. But it can create a good residual amount of income, and the rates are less than what they're paying on their electric bill now. And as far as the billing and the service and all that stuff, it's still all provided by whatever the service provider is now. So in our area, our electric bill comes from Eversource. So the billing is still done through Eversource. It's just you pay a lower rate on it. So what Ambit does at a corporate level is they go out and buy bulk megawatts of power, and through deregulation, they can sell that onto the grid. So the service wires and the lines and the billing and all that is still done through like Eversource or whoever your electric company is. But however, your power source can come from any supplier. So if you get it through Ambit, it's at a lower rate. Now, most people don't know it because states are just starting to deregulate that. It was to basically break up the monopoly of electric companies.
Yeah.
Now, and it's still a fairly new venture. So there's a ton of room to growth. They're only in 16 states right now, and they only have 3% market share in the states that they're in. So there's a whole bunch of room for this thing to really grow and blow up. So.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. I'm one of those that's probably the opposite of most, where I love MLMs, right? Like, I think it's anytime you can go out there and sell somebody else's product where it's very, very cheap, if not free, to get involved. Man, I mean, and then also make money off of other people's, activities. I mean, I'm a huge fan, right? I think a lot of people maybe get into them to the wrong reasons and do a product or service they don't believe in, and they just want to go out and make money. But we had a guest on not too long ago that was a serial entrepreneur, lost everything, got really depressed, gained a bunch of weight, and he started P90X just to get back into shape. And it got him back into shape, got him back to a level of fulfillment, and got him back on track. Well, then he decided to go out there and start working, on the side for Beachbody, the MLM. And now, I mean, he's netting over $1 million a year through Beachbody as he's still growing his other ventures. And I mean, it's a huge, especially if you truly believe in the product, such a great thing to go out there and get involved in.
Yeah, no kidding. I agree. And like I said, I was, not a fan of it before, but it may have been just because I hadn't found the right product for me. And with this whole electric thing and the way it integrates into real estate, it was just like, the light bulb went off and said, yeah, this is it, man. It's really going to grow.
Yeah. So, well, it's great. I mean, you're saving your tenants money and you money and everybody, all the way around. So it's a huge win. So, just out of curiosity, Kevin, I mean, you've had, you discussed numerous kind of, ceilings or walls that you ran into where most people would have just said, screw it, dude, I'm done. Right. What is it about you personally that keeps you from never giving up? When most people would just quit in those moments, when you're faced with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debts and all this stuff. And, most people crumble in those moments, man. What keeps you driving and not giving up?
I think it's really goals and mindset. When I was probably 25, I said, I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30 years old. That was the goal that I set. I accomplished that at 28. So then I said, I want to be a decamillionaire, have a net worth of 10 million by the time I hit 40. I was able to do that at 37. So now I set a goal to be worth, I have a net worth of 100 million, and I gave myself till 60. So stay tuned. I haven't hit that one yet, but I'm working on it. So I think it's really being goal-oriented, knowing what you want to do. And, I've always kind of just said, you know what? Someone out there has to be successful. There's successful people out there. Someone's got to fill that role. We all have a role in life to fill, and I thought that was my role to fill, and still honestly believe that. That's kind of what I've ingrained in my mind. So to me, failure is not an option. So, I've encountered setbacks, but it was never something that said, okay, I failed at this, I'm done. I just found a bunch of ways to not do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's you really only truly fail if you quit, right? And I look at those setbacks you talked about where people do, class them as failures, but those are just our greatest learning moments that then truly become our greatest assets, right? If you didn't have those experiences, you wouldn't be the man you are today. So
that's right. I think they, constantly shape you. I couldn't agree more.
Yep. Love it, man. So knowing everything that you know now, with all the experiences and closing on over 600 successful units, plus you got much more going on today, knowing everything you know now, if you could go back and give yourself like 2 pieces of advice when you first started this journey that you feel would have just fast forwarded your success, what would those 2 pieces of advice look like?
Boy, that's a good one. I think I would have just, tried to form those teams and make those connections, a lot sooner. The sooner you get started, the more successful you'll be, obviously, in any venture. So, I started at 22, so I felt I started kind of early, but even at 22, I thought, man, if I would have started this at 18, I would have even done it sooner. So I don't think there's any mindset where it's too early to start. I mean, here's a perfect example. I got 4 kids. They're all very motivated to do different things. But my youngest daughter is 9 years old, and she started her own little business selling slime. She's so motivated. She does her own thing, and she's like, you got to mention me today so I can link it to my slime account and let all these people know about it. So I'll give you that link later too for her. But, my point is, it's never too early to start this. I mean, she's, wanting to start growing her business at 9 years old. Is it going to be the business that sets her up for life? Maybe not, but it's definitely ingraining that mindset of growth and entrepreneurship at a young age. So I think don't hold back and don't say, I'll get to it someday. I think you just really need to start and just, go for it.
Yeah, love it.
And another thing is do something every single day towards your goal. I mean, it's great to visualize what you want. It's great to set goals, but without focused action, you'll never get there.
Yep.
So you just got to get out and do something every day.
Yep. Yeah, I had a guest on recently who is the longest standing CEO in Silicon Valley history. He led his company through 8 recessions, all profitably. And he had a quote that was, information only becomes wisdom once you apply that information, right? Huh. And just like you said, man, information it's no longer power unless we're taking action on it. So love it. I started this podcast because I wanted to go out there and really give back to an industry that's changed my life and changed your life. And, those that are watching or listening are here because that's exactly what they want. They want to go out there and create the life they know they want and deserve. And with that being said, do you have any last words of maybe advice or inspiration that you'd like to leave them with so they can do exactly that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things on that. I mentioned goals. And I do goals, long-term goals and short-term goals, and I do them every year. But one of the things that I do is I do 3 categories of goals. My first set of goals is my personal goals, which is my physical fitness, which is my family, which is things I want to achieve out of life. My second set of goals is my business goals, what I want to do with my business, how I want to structure it, and different things there. And my last one is my financial goals, because I think if you take care of the first 2 sets of goals first, your financial goals will follow. You don't lead with what you want in your checking account. You lead with the other things, and I think your checking account kind of fills in the process. The second thing is really mindset. I mean, I've got a list of books that I'd be happy to share with you after too as links that have just really been instrumental to me. And I kind of categorize them in 3 different ways. One is technical. So you gotta learn whatever industry you're in. So you gotta, know more than the next guy about it. So really dive into the technical part of it. The second thing is mindset. You gotta have the right mindset. I mean, if you think you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail. If you think you're gonna succeed, you're gonna succeed. So you really need to develop your mindset. And then the third thing is inspirational. That's huge. You read, some of the different things about getting inspired and so forth. And it really kind of, keeps you ticking along and makes you think that you can certainly be the one to get there. And then the last thing I think is to really build a team, trust your team, build your team. I'm certainly not a micromanager by any sense of the imagination. Every employee, contractor, anybody I hire, I really try to let them take ownership in what they do. Trust but verify is kind of how I would say it. And that's kind of my best advice I can give at this point.
Yep. Love it, man. Powerful words. And those that are watching, listen, I only end every podcast with this, you guys, but information without implementation truly is just the start of delusion. Information doesn't become power till you take action on that information. As Kevin just said, right? You got to go out there and take action every single day. Don't just manifest it, take action on those visions, and you absolutely will go out there and create the life you know you want and deserve. And Kevin, man, I know how busy you are. I truly appreciate you taking time at a busy day to be here. And then again, real quick, everybody that's watching and listening, I don't care where you're at, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the website, wherever you're at, we have links below with Kevin's contact information so you can reach out to him. We'll have a link below where you can learn more about Ambit. and then also his recommended book list. So all that's going to be below, so make sure to check that out. And again, Kevin, man, this has been a lot of fun and a huge honor, my friend.
Josh, the honor's mine. I appreciate it. You're doing a great job doing what you're doing. So keep it up, and thank you for having me on.
Yep. Thanks so much. All right, you guys. Well, we will see you next time.